what I do on every single appointment. The back, this white sheet of paper represents the back of the lead. So I use the client worksheet um, for my info and my intel, and then I draw this out, and I like to go through some logical things with them at first to get them, thinking and agreeing with me on things and following my pen and leading them in the direction that they need to go to understand everything. So I draw everything out on the back exactly like this. I'm going to say, all right, we have a $200,000 we owe to the mortgage company. You said the house appraised for $240,000 value, which means we already have about $40,000 of your money invested here into this account, if you will. It's invested into this piece of real estate, and we're constantly going to be paying down. So the next over the next 30 years, we're going to be paying down on this mortgage, which means the money in this account is going up. It's going to be somewhere we know. If you died right now, there's $40,000 of your money invested into this account. There's going to be somewhere between $40,000 and $240,000 invested into this account. Now, the bank knows exactly how much money is in your house in equity, my house, your house, everybody's house. And when they see 40, 50, $60,000, much less, $100,000 sitting here, and they see that you're dead, what do you think they do? They have paperwork ready. So, but as long as this mortgage payment continues to be made, there's nothing that they can do. So at the very least, we need to at least make sure this money, whatever you have invested here, is going to go to your family in some form or fashion and not back to the bank. I'll help you do this however you want to do. We can pay off the entire mortgage, however we need to do it. But just so you understand, we'll just draw everything out. $200,000 is what you owe now. You are 45 years old currently. You're going to be 75 years old when the house is paid for. So we're going to be paying this down to zero over the next 30 years. You can custom fit this, but just so you understand how it works, if you were to lock in the full mortgage, so we'll say you lock in full mortgage protection, $200,000 locked in until you're 75 years old. It doesn't matter when something happens. Even if you were to die at age 74, 73, and only owed $30,000 on the house, whatever the math broke down to be, they would still get a tax-free check for $200,000 or whatever number you had elected for them to have. They'd be able to pay off whatever's left on the mortgage, and they would keep that money for them and their family to replace the income that you're no longer making anymore from your job because you're no longer alive. So if that makes sense, I will show you a couple of different ways that most people will typically set this up, just to kind of give you some ideas, and then you can play with the numbers from there if you'd like. So if we look at full mortgage protection, this would lock in $200,000. So if anything happened to you between now and 75 years old, while you owe money on this house, this option would make sure no way ever would the family ever lose the house. And I always tell them what it does, not what it is. So you're not saying this is a $200,000 term life policy. No, this is whenever you're asking them their situation, what are you going to do whenever he dies and you can't make this mortgage payment? Where are you going to go? Are you going to be able to work? Are you going to have a job? Whatever their situation is, speak in their language. So this option makes sure that you don't have to go live with your sister or whatever their situation was that they did not want to happen. That's what this one makes sure doesn't happen. And if we get approved for that, that would only be $126.85. That would make sure no matter what, house would be paid for, they would have money left over. Or we could look at a basic mortgage protection. Hey, you're healthy now. If anything were to happen to you anytime soon, unless you just have some disease we don't know about or something, it would probably be some form of injury, some kind of like a car wreck, something along those lines. So with the basic, it's going to still pay the full $200,000 if anything happens to you soon, or if it's related to an injury of any kind. If it's an accidental death, it still pays $200. So that would still pay everything off now. Now, the closer we get to age 75, the more likely that is to change. You could, get diagnosed with something. You could possibly die of something health related. You're much more likely to have that happen to you the older you are. So no matter what, it's going to pay $100,000. So if something happens to you later in life, you've also been paying down on your mortgage all this time, so $100,000 would still likely uh, kick in and pay off the remainder of the house. If we got approved for that, that would only be $75.43. Which one of these fits best in the budget? Which one of these do you want to see if we can get approved for? They'll pick one. I'll circle it and then say, well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves here, I do need to run through a quick health questionnaire with you to make sure that I am authorized to actually sign off on this for you. We'll send it into the insurance company. It's going to take a couple weeks for them to pull your prescription report, make their decision, and then obviously you don't pay the $75 unless you do get approved. And upon approval, that's whenever you make your first payment. What day of the month do you want to set it up for June, July, and so on? You can always change it. I just have to set it for something tentatively. I'll set it for like the 5th, 15th, 25th. Most people say the 15th. I go ahead and write that down on there and then transition to filling out the health questionnaire. That is just dropping the seed that they know, besides the stack of void checks and filled out applications I have with my folder sitting on their table that they see. They know that they're going to be giving me payment information and setting this up for a future draft. So then I transition to the health questionnaire by saying, well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves here, I will have to run through a quick health questionnaire with you just to make sure I'm even authorized to sign off on this for you. Make sure we can answer no to some questions. If we can, we'll send this request in to the insurance company. Of course, you won't pay the $75 unless you do get approved. And as I said, you'll pay that first payment on approval, and then whatever day of the month you have it set up to go from there.
And let's go out and become amazing together.